Hello, David Zritsky for the Bond Experience. Welcome back. What is it about watches? There's something more than just metal and a hunk of parts or something intrinsically emotional about it. Tie that to the Bond franchise and you've got something that we can all wrap our heads around. But I can't have this following discussion by myself. I've got to really invite somebody that knows his onions about watches and a good friend of mine as well. Lorenzo from Omega Watches, welcome to the show.
Hey, David, thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate you giving me the call to come in and help you with this awesome little topic.
Yeah, it is an awesome topic, but I think it's only as good as the people that you speak to about it. Because, one of the things I know a lot of watch guys, but I really almost wanted to do this like you and I met up for a drink. And, I sat with you and I'm like, hey, I pulled up some pictures on my phone and I'd love to go over, what do you feel about these watches? What do you feel about the scenes to which these watches take place in? And how does it emotionally connect with you? And I think you're one of the few people I know that I can almost get a little behavioral science with watches with. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. 100%. It is definitely an emotional thing for me, as well as a Bond thing. And, there's a bunch of other factors that come into it. So I'm ready to dive in when you are.
That's awesome. We're going to dive right in. Before we do, just a little bit about Lorenzo. For those of you that are uninitiated, he has an amazing channel, mostly on Instagram, called Omega Bond Watches. And what I love about it is it's basically, I feel, the documentation of a watch lover, of a Bond lover's journey through watch collecting and watch appreciation. But you also highlight a lot of other people. Where did the passion to start this come from?
So, David, honestly, for me, it started when I was a 12-year-old kid. I was living in Maryland at the time with my family, and I saw my first Bond movie, which was Tomorrow Never Dies. I saw it on VHS, actually, just to kind of date myself.
Yeah.
But, there's a scene at the end when he's on the stealth boat where the watch lights up, and it just grabbed me.
Yeah.
The gadget grabbed me. And so I remember going to the mall, and I just, started, like, my parents would take me and my sister, and my mom and my sister go shop, and they'd give me like the opportunity to kind of run around, and they'd be like, okay, be back here at this time. And I'm like, all right. So I started wandering into jewelry stores and asking about this watch. And I met this woman. She's an older lady. Her name was Connie. And here I come in. I'm like, do you guys have the Bond watch? And she's just like, yes, actually we do. And she would pull it out and show me. Multiple times this would happen. And she just took the time to really let me spend a moment with this, essentially luxury item. And it built a connection for me, with the brand. And I wasn't going to buy the watch from her. I'm a kid. But long and behold, that service and that dedication to providing, an experience truly grew my passion right there.
I always say this. I think people's passion, what energizes somebody, is just a composite of their experiences. It's these impact moments that build over time. And you and I, we've talked about this before socially even, that Tomorrow Never Dies was my impetus to jump into the watches. Of course, today I'm not wearing a Tomorrow Never Dies watch because we always talk about that human connection with it. I am, because it's the newest and the sexiest for me. We're doing a watch check right now. I'm wearing, of course, you recognize it, the No Time to Die.
That's the No Time to Die. And I actually have on my first watch I got, let's see, like that. I got my first watch my parents got me for my 21st birthday, and it's the 007 collector's piece from Quantum of Solace. So back then, I didn't know anything about watches when I picked it out, because originally I wanted the Seamaster Brosnan. And this came out at that time, and I was like, you know what? This will mark this moment in my life, and this will be my one watch I die with. Whoops.
I can't wait to bury you with that watch. It's something I'm really looking forward to next year. What? We just went dour. No. This is going to be a celebration. And by the way, for those of you watching, if you're not a watch aficionado, it doesn't matter. I think you're really going to have fun with this, because we all see the watches of Bond in their environment, and we get this little rush. So here's what I've done. And I haven't shown Lorenzo this imagery that we're going to be putting, but we're going to do a Skyfall Rorschach moment where we're going to show an image, and I want to get your perception of it. How does it make you feel? And we're just going to have a comfortable chat about it. Sound good?
Sounds good to me.
All right, let's jump into it. We're going to use some really cool technology, but here we go. And really, here we go. All right, talk to me. What are you feeling about this?
I mean, there's a lot of emotions with this, especially with Sean's passing recently, but it's the first Bond watch, and this is, to me, the most iconic Bond watch that there is. Omega aside, as much as I love Omega, this is the first, and it's an awfully rare item to find nowadays. And
Yes.
trust me, if I could afford one, I would own one. I would totally own one of these, but it just brings back just the beginning. Like it just, that's where my heart goes when I see this piece.
That's a really good point, because I see it as kind of a beginning as well, this is the Goldfinger Rolex, of course, Submariner that everybody sees. It's the 6538. Most of us will not own this because number one, it costs 2 times a king's ransom, not even one, and it's really hard to find, but it still has this iconic look. Although I love the fact that from a aesthetic standpoint, it's still maybe not a perfect imagery, because if you and I look at that, we would be like, hold on a second, is the strap too thin for that? What's the story there?
So as the story goes, and don't quote me on this story,
I won't.
basically that watch was actually Cubby Broccoli's watch, and Sean needed a watch for the scene, and so he took it off, and the bracelet didn't fit Sean, so the prop department just found a strap of some sort. Obviously it wasn't sized correctly, and they put it on there. So I think it was just more of like a in the moment thing, which I think makes it more special that way, because I love those kind of like little nuances and little side stories behind movies and items in movies that end up in movies, and they have a reason for being there the way they are. And clearly, this isn't the correct size, but it's almost like a staple now that Sean wore it on this, I guess smaller NATO strap.
Yeah. So if you want screen accuracy, you really shouldn't get the strap that fits this watch. You should get that look.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. This is good. This is working. This is working.
I like it.
Get ready for the next, Skyfall Rorschach moment. Here we go. All right. Talk to me. What's the word that comes to mind?
I think of chunky is what I think of immediately, just from looking at it. That's just my watch brain kind of turning on. But from a standpoint as a collector, for me, I would love to have this piece because it's just so different than what you're seeing nowadays. It's like it has its own uniqueness to it, and I love that. And I mean, he swims with sharks with this on, so it's just like it's really cool,
I know. And that shirt he's wearing, like that, to me, you and I have discussed it. The Thunderball look, the style, the clothing is so on point. I think it's maybe in my top 2 style movies for Bond. And this watch, I like a good chunky watch, but this watch just looks like it could knock somebody out. But it is basically a Geiger counter, it acts to set off the Geiger counter as a test. And of course, this is the Breitling Top Time that is now infamous or famous because the original one, or the story goes, of course, and I think it's actually a true story, is it was found at some sort of garage sale or something like that for like $300 or $600. And some people have gotten a hold of it, taken a look at it, and really understood it. But this is a very rare and special thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, for me, it's just like I love like the bracelet. It's a Jubilee bracelet, and it's just like something like, I don't know, like it just speaks to me in the sense of it's just different. Like I can't say that enough. It just looks very, exotic. And I kind of think of sharks in that scene. I immediately go back to that. So I love the look of it.
I totally agree. I think this is a good one. Well, let's see how we fare for the next one then, because we've got to check them all out. Here we go. First of all, do you even recognize the movie?
Oh, 100%. That is the Rolex chronograph from On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Nice, dude. I brought the right person onto this.
Dude, I honestly, like, this isn't my wheelhouse, but I know the watches, and I've actually looked into trying to get one of these because I just think it's a very tasteful dress watch, and they're rare. I don't know if you can really see it in this picture, but the seconds hand is actually red, and it really pops on the dial. It's kind of hard to see in this photograph, but I just love the silver dial, and it looks like it's different. Like, again, I'm going to go back to.
Is it pearlescent, the face? Is it like a pearl color?
It looks like they call it sunblast. So basically, it like if you were to look at the dial straight on, it almost looks like it's exploding in the middle, like with the design of it.
Yeah. And this is the 6238. Like you said, it's the chronograph. But what I love about this is, and again, I can't help, maybe you do this too. With Bond watches, I can't just think about the watch. I've got to think either about the scene or even Bond's attitude during the moment or what he's wearing. And I remember, this is a very simple, he's wearing that kind of beige, waffle weave shawl sweater with, you could see, kind of the check shirt. It's a very plain outfit, but to me, it just screams of the Lazenby Bond, that kind of like, right, that late 60s
100%.
type look. And this watch just finishes it off perfectly.
And it's funny because like the scene that pops out in my head from this movie is when he's like going into the safe and he like just kind of like posts up and like puts the watch on there and like starts having a drink and goes, "Sorry, miss." Like, I just like that. For me, it's like the line and the look of the watch is just very like, I don't know, it's just like a Bond moment, like, for me.
Yeah.
And I just relate it to this timepiece.
I totally agree. You want to keep playing?
Absolutely. I'm enjoying this.
You're not done, right?
No.
By a long shot. All right, here we go. I love this because seriously, folks, you may think that we're putting you on. Lorenzo, did I check with you beforehand on these watches?
No, you did not. You did say to me that I'm going to give you a little test. So that's all I knew. So this is all natural reaction.
All right, here we go. Oh, all right. Talk to me. Be honest.
I'll be honest. Like, I can't stand this watch.
Ladies and gentlemen, an honest gentleman.
Oh man, I mean, it's digital, it's chunky. I mean, this is chunky. There's nothing elegant about it, but it does have its staple from being, one of Roger Moore's first watches. And
that's true.
I can appreciate that factor of it. Would I go out and get one? I think the question I ask myself is, if I buy this, am I buying it just to have it, or am I buying it to wear it? And I think that's a big thing with collecting. And for me, if I'm going to spend money on things, like a Pulsar is a pair of Crockett and Jones shoes for me. And
that's
it's
a
like,
great point.
I would much rather have something that I'm going to use. And I connect to, when I buy something Bond related, and this goes with watches or clothing or anything, it's just like, how's it going to make me feel when I put it on? And I think like that's important, that I'm not trying to cosplay. I'm trying to create my own memory, and it's my connection to it. Of course, that it's, something that Bond had worn, but I want to make my own memory in it. And then it's that escape that you've talked about in the past. Like, I can look at it, or another thing I like is that it becomes a conversation piece. Someone goes, "Oh my God, I love those shoes. Where are they?" And then I get to bring in Bond, or like bring it up. "Oh, well, these are in Skyfall, but let me tell you about the brand. Let me tell you why this brand's special, why it made it into the movie." So it's like, there's a lot of different angles you can go with it. But for me personally, it's more about the experience of wearing it and how it makes me feel.
I think that is so eloquently put, almost poetically put, because I'm a big believer in that. I do own this watch, and it is, I love it. It's a display piece. And the reason is I appreciate the aesthetics. I appreciate the space age nature of the Pulsar. And that's why I think they've, Hamilton released an homage watch to it, very recently, which a lot of people jumped on. But to me, when I think of a Bond watch, if someone gave me 10 choices of something that is iconically a Bond watch, this wouldn't make the top 10, because I do feel it's very space age. And I think that they were trying to do that. I mean, this type of, watch was new for the time. So they wanted Bond to be on the cusp. But certainly the watch he gets seconds later, excuse the pun, is more of a Bond watch to me.
Oh, I have a feeling I know what's coming next.
You have no idea what's coming next. Maybe you know what's coming next. Never mind.
Oh,
so what do you feel about the Rolex Submariner reference 5513?
So for this one in particular, immediately my mind goes to the saw bezel. I mean, it's just like one of the best gadgets. I'd say top 3, if not the best gadget. And it's just the way he uses it to escape. It was just perfect. It was seamless. You had no idea about it. And it just, I don't know, like, it just really for me to go from Sean and then put this on, you know, Roger's wrist, I thought it was like a good move. And now you're incorporating like an actual gadget versus, you know, Sean just wore it as his timepiece. So, I mean, absolutely, this has like a iconic attachment to the franchise.
I tell you what, I agree. And so much, in fact, that, you know, this was before I had any, actually, no, just after the Tomorrow Never Dies purchase. I remember saying to myself, you know what, I'd love to get a Rolex, because to me, then I'll have the both brands.
Right.
I'll have, you know, what people think is the iconic vintage brand, and then I'll have the new innovative brand. And so I did get what was the equivalent of the time, the 5513, but for, you know, the date that I got it, which I think I bought the Rolex in 2000, I want to say. And it's exactly looks like this. I mean, exactly looks like this with no date. So it's a no date Submariner. And I love it because of one factor. Number one, it's my favorite Roger Moore movie. And number two, I mean, come on, dude. Like, this watch does so many things in this movie, from taking down a woman's dress to pulling a boat to getting a spoon. I mean, to cutting through rope like you're seeing now. I mean, from a cool factor, that's got to send shivers up your spine.
Well, another thing that I want to like kind of touch on is like, think about when this was filmed, like the way they filmed these like actual actions of the watch. I mean, this is pretty state of the art for filmmaking at that time. And that's something I can like recognize and appreciate like crazy. Like, it just, I thought the rotating bezel was just, I'm just fascinated with how they did it. They didn't have CGI for that. Someone had to physically make this item.
Yeah. And they had to attach it. They have a fake hand, and they had to build all the components inside. And, you know, the whole movie magic behind it is unbelievable. I agree with you. I'm a fan. But let's see if you're a fan of this next one. Drum roll. Oh, didn't see that coming.
Oh, okay. So I'm just
wait, ladies and gentlemen, he audibly groaned.
I'm going to put this out here right now. I feel like this is a great moment to look. I feel like this is a great moment to kind of like recognize like what one of the best parts about Bond, and it's like a time capsule for history. And during Roger's tenure, it was mostly digital watches. And that's something that, like, you know, if you compare to like an Apple Watch nowadays, it's going to run circles around this. And for me, it's just like, again, it's a digital watch. And to me, it's not really Bond, because Bond's, you know, he wears luxury items. Now, at that time, was this considered luxury? Maybe. I think it was more or less, it was techie, and I think they got really excited with what they did with the Rolex, and now they started going, well, what kind of things can we get the watch to do? And it's just like a learning curve almost for the brand, and this making, you know, putting a gadget with a watch. And it just, you know, that's where my head goes when I see these. I personally don't have a connection to them, but they're a Bond watch, so I respect it.
I hear you. I mean, first of all, for those of you that don't know, that is the Spy Who Loved Me watch. It's the Seiko reference 0674, liquid crystal, which is kind of cool, relatively new of its day. But people call it the ticker tape.
Yes.
Ticker tape watch. I own this watch. And I will tell you, I have actually, just kind of on a lark, but it's been more of a goof to wear it. But I will say this. My son, who's 24 years old, loves this thing because they're all into like Stranger Things and calculator watches and all these vintage, like, you know, late 70s, early 80s stuff. He wound up getting a retro looking watch that looked just like this. So, hey, maybe you and I are just old men.
Maybe. I mean, again, if I were to buy this watch, my head goes to how much am I spending on it and how much am I going to wear it? Like, that's immediate. Like, again, it's a Bond item, I get it, but is it practical? Am I going to get use out of it where I feel that? And I don't know if it's because I didn't grow up in the era when these movies were coming out, because I don't have that connection to this. You know, I've seen the movies, like I know it's Bond, but it's not. I don't remember going to a theater and seeing, you know, Roger Moore on the silver screen. It's just more of like, this is a piece of Bond history. So that's kind of where it falls for me. Maybe it's because of my era I've grown up in, but I can still appreciate the timepiece in someone that wears it.
Of course. And I think that appreciation incredibly important to do that. But this next one, I think, is going to be a relatively interesting discussion for us because I don't think it's going to be an obvious discussion. But here we go. So what we have before you is the Moonraker Seiko M354 Memory Bank calendar watch.
Ooh, stepping up their game.
It's not just a watch. It'll also tell you the date.
I wonder if you can put memos in there.
No, but you can put some explosives in there. Do you remember from the movie? It has a couple great scenes. One of them being when he puts kind of the plastic explosives and he saves himself and Dr. Goodhead from, just being marshmallowed to death.
Yeah,
basically.
that wouldn't be good. I don't think that would have been a good ending for Bond. So the Seiko did come through in the clutch. So I'll give him that. I
got to tell you something. I like this watch. I do. It does have its goofiness. The only problem I have with it, and I like the sleekness of it. I am telling you right now, as fun and as frivolous as Moonraker is, there are moments that I like, and I like that Bond uses this truly as an escape watch. Any watch that he uses to be resourceful, to be that typical Bond MacGyver-like character, I really like. Now, I do think in today's world, this might appear a little tech geek, as I like to call it. So having a suave, debonair, playboy-like secret agent wear this, I don't think it would fly nowadays. What are your thoughts?
I agree with you. I think though, if you wear it, it's a statement piece. And again, if you like it, wear it. Like that's going to be my end saying here with anything, don't wear something because of someone else, or wear it because of how it makes you feel. And if you feel a connection to something, absolutely go for it. And don't worry what everyone else is going to say about it. If that brings joy to you and it makes you feel good about yourself, 100%.
That's pretty amazing that you're saying that, because I've preached that in a lot of my style videos where it's like my style is not your style. If you have something right now, I'm wearing a Diamonds Are Forever shirt with epaulette pockets. I mean, would not be for everybody, but gosh, it's really comfortable when it's warm out. You've got to kind of choose your own style. Of course, that's us talking about this and we're emulating Bond, but there it is.
It's the caveat. If there's one thing you can walk away from this conversation, is I hope it's that.
It is that. Now I'm going to show you this next one, and we're going to get a little bit. I want to do something a bit titillating for you.
Sure.
So we've got the Octopussy TV watch. So this is the part where Roger Moore decides to zone in on a pair of upper GI tract of a young lady working in Q Branch. Not harassment there at all in the workplace. Nah. But that being said, he does use it again later in the balloon kind of bring down. So, it is used. Is it used to the best effect? Probably not. Again, I own this watch. It's a fascinating watch. You actually can get, UHF signals on it, which is just crazy. But it is big. It's techie. And I want to know what you think of it.
I mean, you're hitting the nail on the head for me. Like, it's very kind of like, to me, again, this goes back to the whole thing of, I feel like the franchise was just, or I don't know if it's more the franchise or it was a combination for the franchise and Seiko, but they're just keep trying to one up the last one. And I feel like they're getting away from the luxury part of it, and they're just trying to make it more and more exotic. And I get it. Like, I mean, they want to do something new and exciting, and I can appreciate when they throw it out there and, they do something crazy, and people either are going to love it or hate it. But again, with technology, things are always going to become dated as time passes. And again, this is the first Apple Watch. If you were to really look at it, it's just, this would be like the grandfather of the Apple Watch if you were to really kind of look at it that way. But, it's a techie. It's kind of nerdy, but I can appreciate it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm with you on it. You keep saying this, and it's true. These things are all a piece of history. I mean, they really are. So now we're going to jump around a little bit, which I think is fun. Most of you eagle-eyed people out there know that we've been doing kind of in order. Now we're kind of getting a little bit out of order. And I thought this was the perfect shot for this watch because it shows a rough and tumble but badass Bond. I think I know how you feel about this watch, but why don't you tell me?
David, if there's one thing I can say about this watch is this to me is Daniel Craig's signature watch. It is iconic. Wow. It even when you go with just the clothing in Quantum of Solace, like it's the only movie Daniel did where he wore one single timepiece. And what a timepiece to pick. I mean, I think it just harkens back to those original like 60s and 70s dive watches, and I think Omega did a great job. And I know he wore it in Casino Royale, but he wore it on a rubber strap, and it was very large. The size of this watch being a 42 millimeter just plays to like, I start thinking of Sean and the original Rolex when I see this watch.
Yeah. Is the size the only difference between this one and the one from Casino Royale?
The size and the strap, 100%.
Okay, so the metal strap is different than the metal strap from Casino Royale.
No, because Casino Royale is a rubber strap, and then this one's on a bracelet. So
but don't they have him wear a metal one as well in Casino Royale?
So in Casino Royale, he wears the Diver 300M, which is the Brosnan watch, but it's an updated movement from what Brosnan wore.
Oh gosh, I'm not too confused at all. Okay, got it. All right. Well, I mean, and I love this watch. I mean, that watch is just so cool. But like you said, it also, you can't take it out of the scenes he's in. I mean, inarguably, if you look at Daniel Craig's movies, people always put Casino Royale before this one, but the portrayal of Bond in this movie is so badass. People tend to gravitate to this from a style standpoint.
Oh, 100%. And it's funny because once COVID started, I was talking to my buddy Chris Hoover, who I know you met when I came and visited you.
Yeah.
And he never liked Quantum. And I literally sat him down. We were actually driving back from your house and we were talking about the movies. And he goes, man, I just can't get behind Quantum. And I go, look, man, let me tell you something. I said, yes, the third act's a little undercooked, but I need you to look at this film from like just a style standpoint and think of like the old Connery films and tell me what you think. Yeah. So he rewatched it. And he converted. He loves the film now that I've pointed out certain things like Bond's look, Bond's attitude, Bond's watch, like all these different aspects of the movie are excellent. And it's just like, unfortunately, there's a writer's strike when the movie came out. And, the third act was a little undercooked, but there's a lot there. And I think coming down from that high of Casino Royale and the expectations were just, I mean, that's a big thing to try to duplicate.
Yeah.
For me personally, it's the most iconic Daniel Craig film from a style standpoint out of all of them.
Without question, at least for me as well, too. Yeah. So, and show me your watch again. You are wearing the.
No, so when the movie came out, was a little side story. I wanted I'll actually show them because I have them right here. So why don't I do that? So this
show and tell people.
So this is the Casino Royale Daniel Craig Diver 300M that he wore at the end with the bracelet that you weren't sure about.
Yeah.
So I think you can see it. Sorry about the reflection. It's kind of hard.
That's okay.
But so this is what I wanted. And when Quantum of Solace came out, this was obviously the Bond watch right here.
Yes.
So they're both the same size versus, the one he wore in Casino Royale that was a 45 millimeter, which is quite a bit bigger. And then this came out, which was a limited release. They did 10,007 pieces. And I was like, well, I didn't really like this watch when I first saw it. I was like, that's not the Bond watch, like just being who I was back then, like I was like, the Bond watch is the blue watch. And, but I was like, I can't see myself wearing a blue watch every day. Like I want to be able to wear it with just about anything. So this came up, and the difference is it's got a black, sorry about that. It's got a black lacquer dial right there. So it's just flat black. So it made me think of like Bond's tuxedo. And I was like, this is like an upgrade from like just the wave dial. I feel like it's just going to mark this moment. So that's why I went with it. But hindsight being 2020, I wish I would have just got the screen accurate one.
It's so cool though. It's absolutely amazing. All right. We got to go to the next one. The movie's pretty much near and dear to me because I just literally got finished with a debate from it. So that may give you a little bit of hint of which one it's going to be. But it is, you recognize that?
Oh,
it's the Tag
yes.
Heuer.
Yes, that is
980.031. black matte with a luminescent glow in the dark. I've got this watch, but I don't have the matte black version. I have the silver version. And actually, this is a fascinating story. This was actually Danielle's watch, way back when. We had no idea it was going to be a Bond watch, and we wound up getting it. And now it's in the collection.
I absolutely adore this watch. I have a secret desire to have one.
Oh.
And it's just, I love the lume dial. Like it's so, again, I'm always going to go back to like, I like my Bond watches to be different. I don't want them all to look the same. So like this one, just the matte, what they call the coating of PVD. So they like just coat the watch. It's a metal base and then they coat it black. So over time, it actually does kind of fade and wear. But it's just such a stealthy looking watch, and I thought it was perfect for that opening sequence.
It's absolutely amazing. And yeah, to your point, I mean, I love that opening sequence. I think it was a great introductory to Timothy Dalton's Bond. It was very badass. So the watch is like him, a little kind of black-hearted, little dark, with a little bit of light inside of it. I mean, that is Timothy Dalton's Bond.
Oh yeah, 100%. That I'm a huge fan of that watch for sure.
All right. Well, enough of that watch. What do you think of this watch?
I mean, to me, I go back to like Roger, I think, when I see this, because I think about how Roger wore this watch first, as far as, with the bracelet. So I immediately kind of go there with it. It's a Rolex. I mean, you can't go wrong with it. It's, it's a very luxurious watch. And personally, I would have rather seen him wear the night dive the whole movie, because I just think it's such a cool watch. But I'm glad that they put the Rolex on Tim. And I think that it was more like to kind of tie in the Rolex thing and keep it going, because you had Sean wear it first and you had Roger wear it and you had George wear it, and now it's like, okay, let's make sure Tim's wearing a Rolex at some point. So like, I understand that part of it.
Yeah, and it's interesting how they did kind of step away from some of those more contractual, because we know Rolex has never been contractually connected so much to Bond, but the question is, that contract, does it end? And we're gonna kind of give everybody the answer right now, and probably what's coming just from that.
Ooh,
and that is that little badass little moment. What are we looking at right here?
So that's the GoldenEye laser watch, when he's cutting the floor in the train when he has 3 minutes to escape. And I would like to, like, for me, I think of like just playing the game GoldenEye, and like there's a scene in the game, and I remember being like, why is the laser blue in the game and it's red in the movie? It needs to be red. It's like, you get so technical, but what a gadget. You had no idea it was coming. I think the execution was excellent. And they didn't even tee it up. Like, you don't hear Q say anything about it, So
no,
I think that is such a great way to like kind of include a Bond gadget into the movie. And again, this is Omega's, coming out, as a Bond watch, and it just killed it. I think for me, it's iconic.
No disagreement. I will say this is kind of a crazy story for me. I remember seeing GoldenEye, and I remember seeing this moment where I thought, yes, gadgetry, Bond, that's what I was brought up with. I will tell you that Tomorrow Never Dies moments affected me more. Just those kind of moments. I think, it was his whole style in that. I mean, GoldenEye, again, great style movie, but for some reason I wasn't connecting with Brosnan at that point. And I think it could have been my age. Mm-hmm. So I was pretty young, executive. Tomorrow Never Dies, I was slightly older, obviously, but I was also getting a little bit more. I'd just gone into management. And so I was getting more into my appearance. What do I wear and how buttoned up it is. So although this had affected me from a cool factor, it wasn't until Tomorrow Never Dies where I was like, yeah, that's kind of the one. And maybe that's a great entry point into showing this puppy.
Okay. So I actually have a ton to say about this, because again, this model, it's a slight change from the GoldenEye version. He went, Brosnan went from a quartz movement watch, which is battery operated to an automatic, which is all kinetic energy that powers the watch. And I think that's like more luxurious than a quartz watch. And it's like, I just, this, like you said, Tomorrow Never Dies, just really, from the watch to the car remote to, like there's just so many nuances in that film. And again, I saw that film first, so I saw these gadgets before I saw the laser watch. So for me, it was just a continuation, I was already appreciated the watch when I saw GoldenEye, but yeah, this is essentially, I would say the second most iconic Bond watch for sure. 100%.
Yeah, I agree. Now, help me here. Your Omega Bond watches. So you're going to know the answer to this question.
Sure.
This watch, the reason why I pulled up, first of all, I love that you see the watch prominently, even though this is, Die Another Day. I like that whole outfit. I like that whole look. I think Brosnan looks the money there. The watch looks amazing. But is it the same watch that he uses in Tomorrow Never Dies, World Is Not Enough, and Die Another Day? Are they the same watch for all three movies?
100%. Yeah.
So can we just take a beat on that for a second?
Sure.
That's amazing. And I although I like getting a new watch every now and then, and certainly you do as well.
It's a problem.
Isn't it cool that they kept the same watch for 3 adventures?
I think it was establishing Omega as Bond's new wristwatch, and they had such success from the first film going into the second film. They're like, why if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like why change it? As much as I love getting a new watch with every film now with Daniel on the scene, I do appreciate that, there was like essentially almost a decade worth of time where this is the Bond watch, the unsaid Bond watch. It wasn't like they're doing a special release. It was just a standard model in their collection that Brosnan wore. And now look, we're getting redesigns. We're getting it is a staple. And I would say, absolutely, if you going to get like any Omega, this is definitely one of them you need to have. Yeah,
I agree. And the band on that, you can obviously preach this. The band is so comfortable. It's got so many kind of joints, and it moves with you, and it feels luxurious.
Oh yeah, and it's a 5-link bracelet, so it just the high polish little links there, and then the satin finish, it just speaks to you, and it looks more of like a military watch than like just a luxury watch.
Yeah.
But it can be worn dressed up or dressed down. So it covers your bases. This is an everydayer watch for sure.
I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you have your watch box there with you? That
I sure do.
Can you hold it up? I think people will get a kick out of this.
Yeah,
there's a reason they call him Omega Bond watches.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. I don't know if you're going to be able to see.
Oh my gosh.
Is that good?
Dude.
I can't see, so you got to tell me if I'm good.
That's very good. That's like crazy. I just made you like the size of the thing. That's amazing. And the nice thing is, and you've said this, you've preached this, you wear those watches. It's 100%. Not sitting there gathering dust and you're pushing them around once a day.
No. And I think that's really important. Like if you're going to spend this amount of money, and just collect it. Okay. I mean, I'm not saying you can't do that, but for me, it's a functional thing and it's a tool. And again, there's memories attached to it. And I love when I wear a timepiece and someone asks me about it. That is like the best feeling in the world when someone's intrigued by what's on my wrist.
Well, it's a story of acquisition. It's a story of your connection to it. And then you get to tell a story to somebody else.
Absolutely. And then I get to talk about the brand, and I ask them about their taste, because I'm not only am I like putting out information, I'm always wanting to receive information. So if someone's like, well, I'm a Rolex person, I'm like, well, tell me why you like Rolex. I want to see if there's something I'm missing, so there's always an opportunity to grow with other brands by talking to others that truly wear the brands and appreciate them.
It's a great attitude. All right. You ready for this, buddy?
Yep.
So even though I tend to wear the newest, this probably to me is probably my favorite.
Oh yeah. I know that's your favorite. I see that's your everyday watch. I know that. I
I
see you wear it all
mean,
the time.
my gosh, the rubber strap, the chunkiness. I remember that 45.5 putting on for the first time, and I'm like, wow, this thing has its own zip code. This thing is major real estate. And I remember holding it up, and I thought to myself, you know what? If somebody looks at me and goes, "Your wrist is too small," which happily it's not, but if they said that, I'd be like, "Well, it's not on your wrist; it's on mine, so I'm okay with it." But I love this watch, and then look at that moment. I chose that picture for a reason. I mean, this is Bond's tool, and to me, it's a representation of not so much a luxury piece, but a rough and tumble tool, and that's kind of what Bond was in this movie. What are your thoughts?
So for me, it was just like such a different direction, like going from Brosnan and his, elegant watch into this like bold, like strong, like wrist demanding attention model. And it just I thought it was a great choice because we're dressing it down. Bond's in pursuit, in Madagascar, like chasing this, assailant. And it's just like the watch is just, it's badass, like Craig is on that scene. He's all bulked up and he's doing all these crazy, parkour stunts. And you're like, yeah, I can see him wearing that watch in that scene. Absolutely, 100%.
It is amazing, and to me, I remember there was a time when I'm pretty sure this happened. There was an auction for a screen used one. I think it was a rubber one or something like that, and there was a part of me that was like, "Oh, do I do it? Do I do it?" And I didn't do it, obviously, but man, was I tempted. And quite frankly, I didn't do it because I don't want a rubber version of this sitting in my
Yeah,
collection. I want to wear my own timepiece that looks
100%.
exactly like it.
Oh, absolutely. Again, this goes back to the whole thing. Like, if you're going to spend that kind of money, I hope you're going to enjoy it however it is you're getting it,
Yeah.
and I'm sure that rubber one wasn't cheap at all,
No, I don't even think I looked at what it went for. But Lorenzo, are you ready to go back to something elegant?
Yes, let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's just do it. What are we looking at here?
So that's the Aqua Terra, which I for the first time since Bond has worn Omega, this is a non-bezeled. It has a bezel, but it doesn't have a dive bezel. So I think it was like a real big change of pace from what we'd seen before. I'll be honest, the first time I saw the watch, I loved it. The only thing I hated was it was a 38.5 millimeter. It was a mid-size. And I was like, wait, what? Why? I was like, did they run out of 41s? Like why is he wearing such a small watch? But as I've gained more knowledge and talked to other collectors, and now I own this piece, I have actually learned to really appreciate that mid-size. And it just wears so much differently. And I do like that factor in it. And a lot of people don't know this, but actually the hands on that watch are made of white gold, which is not really common knowledge.
Whoa,
But
I
yeah,
didn't know
it's a
that.
very nice touch. So when you look at the dial and the hands, it just reflects way differently than which the newer model Aquaterra is made of rhodium. The hands are, which is still a precious metal, but it's it's a difference between the two, and it's hard to justify. I mean, buying two of essentially the same watch, but there are differences. You just got to be okay with those differences.
I tell you, I've learned to appreciate this. I did a video with Harris Thomas, and we did a whole thing on this is kind of a hidden gem, a hidden
Oh,
hero,
for sure.
because people don't really pay attention to it until you see it, and it's so beautiful in that kind of that blue that just really stands out. I think it looks, this is my frankness, I think it looks best on someone Harris's size. Harris is a little bit more compact, I'll say,
Yeah.
and it looks really good on his wrist. I don't know how it would look on, I'll be frank, my wrist or your wrist. I mean, you and I have some decent sized wrists. So I think I like the bigger watches on you and I, but I'm sure that has its moments in your life.
So for me personally, with sizing, now that we're on the topic,
Size matters not.
I was at first I was totally like, oh, I can't wear anything smaller than a 40. Like my head was just there. And even getting the Casino Royale Planet Ocean and the 45 millimeter, I was like, okay, this is bigger. I can pull this off. I started kind of I got it. I was like, because it's part of the collection. But once I really started wearing it, I was like, you know what? I don't know if I would actually per se wear this on my wrist with a t-shirt, but
Mm.
with a dress shirt or like a suit, 100%, it looks amazing. And it's almost like sometimes I go to that watch because I want like a break from the size. Like I want something that's just, it's there, it's tasteful, it's elegant. I love the
Yeah.
brushed bracelet on it. Another thing people don't really know about this watch is, you're right, it is kind of a hidden gem, and to me it's like the one of the rarest Daniel Craig watches, because this model is actually only produced for 2 years, and then they made an adjustment to it that got rid of the date window.
All right, so help me out here, because there are some pretty badass moments with this watch. Is this what we're looking at right now? Is that also an Aqua Terra?
Yes, sir, it is. And actually the difference between the two is the internal movement is different. So the first one you saw was an 8500 movement, which
Mhm.
we're going to get a little technical here. And that was like the first in-house movement that Omega did. And in-house means Omega, instead of outsourcing the movement and then having it modified to their specifications, they built this from scratch in their corporate office, and
Wow.
they fit the watch around the movement. So that started with the Skyfall Aqua Terra, and now this one is the Master Co-Axial, which means basically it's got 15,000 Gauss, which is electromagnetic protection from like your microwave or like
Gauss.
Gauss.
Wow.
So like basically think of it as like if you were to put your watch up to a speaker, the speaker emits magnetism. And so watches can be magnetized, and this
Wait,
is a
does that
great.
mean this could survive an EMP?
Yes. Actually, a funny story is
Yes.
this is a fun story right here. So Omega got this certification, and then they were like, well, someone wanted to test how strong this like anti-magnetism is.
Right.
So they took and put in an MRI machine. Now, the only reason it's rated 15,000 Gauss is because that's what Omega has to test it with. They put this thing in an MRI machine, a very specialized MRI machine, and it put out 70,000 Gauss.
Oh my gosh.
Did not affect it. Actually, it made it run more accurately. So that is a fun little tidbit about the 15,000 Gauss. And typically, most watch brands do like 1 or 2 anti-magnetic watches.
Right.
All of Omega's watches, since they were master coaxials, and now they're coaxial master chronometers, which is another change, which I can tell you about that. But that basically is something standard across the brand. So like it's just, that's one of the things I love about Omega, is they continue to innovate and continue to upgrade. And that's something that a lot of brands, they're just like comfortable with what they do, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I love that pioneering attitude that Omega brings to the table.
Yeah, and we've talked about the Aqua Terra being kind of the the unfortunate stepchild, or in the shadow, if you will, of some other popular watches. One that's been sought after by many, many people, and I believe you and I are amongst those people, is this next one.
Okay.
Oh boy! Oh boy!
Oh man. Oh, this
I love
watch,
this
like
damn thing. Do you love this watch?
I love this watch. I have such a crazy story for how I got mine, and I obsessed about this watch, like obsessed. It was like, this was kind of like the watch that was like my grail watch for a while. And it was just, I missed out. When the movie came out, I made a choice I got invited to the Spectre event at the Mega Boutique here in Las Vegas. And I was there, and I was like, I think 5 days away from heading to London for the release of Spectre. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, God, I really want this watch. And it was like, at that time, I was in college, and I didn't really have, like $8,000 laying around. So I was there with my mom, and I don't know, I think it was a moment for me of like kind of growing up. I was going to be like, hey mom, is there any chance like you could like buy this and I could, pay you back for it? Or like, I just decided, you know what? I'm taking myself to London. It's just not the time. And it's okay. I wanted to do it for myself. And I think that was like a big moment for me personally. So lo and behold, I get back from the trip, and I'm like, oh, the watch will be there. I didn't think a big deal about it. I get back and the watch is sold out everywhere. Like it's like gone. And I'm like looking and like it's gone. And they're like, it's gone. And I'm like, I couldn't even wrap my head around it. Because it was the first time they took a model, and I don't know why they didn't do this sooner. And they made it specifically for Bond, and it was the Bond model.
Yeah.
And so I obsessed about this watch for 2 years, 2 whole years. Like, I mean, I just was like, somehow, some way, I have to get this watch. And then at the end of 2017, I had a condo I had bought when I was 19, and I was living in it, and it was time to sell it because I was going to move into a house. And I made a little money, you know, good investment. I made good choices. And I said, you know what? First thing I'm doing as soon as that money hits my account from the sale of the house, I'm buying that watch. And I bought it, and I had to pay a premium for it. But I'll tell you what, everyone talks about the money aspect of it. I mean, it was weird because I got mine from London and I had to import it into the country.
Oh boy.
And there's nothing worse than seeing on FedEx.com, seeing it say custom clearance, and it sat there for 2 weeks while it cleared customs. And then, you know, there was a nice little bill for me in the mail to pay tax. But the moment I opened that box up, David, I'll tell you, it was worth every cent. Like,
Yeah.
and I will never forget that memory that's attached to that.
That's amazing. And I have a mini story. It's not quite as long in the sense of your journey to get it took, you know, some time, but, you know, basically heading to London, my wife was with me, and, you know, we saw this in an airport, one left. And, you know, she just was like, you should do this. And we got it right then and there. Literally, as we were going from Switzerland to London to see Spectre for the first time. So for the premiere night, I got to wear the Spectre watch, which was just amazing. And I think the other thing with this watch that really does hit me is, you know, this watch is one of those that has, as you can see here, it's back to gadgetry.
Oh yeah.
It's back to him using this watch, and even the interaction with Q, and it's those tropes that we were brought up on. So it's got a nostalgia factor. To me, I love the band on it. And the display. Holy cow!
Oh yeah,
Just unbelievable.
The open case display case on the back is just you get to see the inner workings. It's just like such like a luxurious finish to the watch. I do love that the only 007 markings they truly did on this was on the little keeper on the NATO strap.
Yeah.
And again, I think a lot of this goes to Daniel. I'm sure he played a part in the design of this watch, and he likes to pull from Roger and Connery and their style from back in the day. And this makes me think of the original Rolex, you know, putting it on the NATO, but with a little twist, a modern twist. And again, like with like it's funny because I think about Skyfall and I think about the shaving scene and how the sales for, like, you know, razor blades went through the roof after the movie.
Yeah.
I feel like the same thing with NATO straps. After the Bond wore NATO strap, I feel like everyone was like NATO strap, NATO strap, NATO strap, and I was like, yeah, Bond has an influence in style for sure on a, you know, a world basis.
Well, and it's funny you say that, and I'm going to use it as a segue because this next watch that we're going to see, you know and love that one, is so interesting because even if you just take the strap, you know, the bracelet, so many people, whether you have a Seiko watch right now or a Fossil watch, they've gone out and they've got this Milanese type bracelet and it's influenced it. But listen, this is about me getting your point of view. What do you think about this puppy?
It's been a journey for how I felt about this watch. I think I'll start there.
Send up. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. I remember seeing the spy shots in summer of 2019, and I was hearing that it's titanium, which that got me excited, but then I was hearing it was brown, and then I was just kind of like, okay, wait a minute. Brown watch? Like, I was just like, I was not too thrilled with the color choice. You know, and again, I couldn't really see it that well. And then there was the confusion between it being black or brown. Like, no one really knew because, I mean, they're fuzzy shots from like probably like 1,000 feet away. So we can only tell so much. When it was released in December, when they announced the watch, I liked it. I wasn't sure if I was in love with it yet. Again, I was still kind of sussing it out. I was like, okay. I was like, now that there's more detail here, I love the bracelet. 100%. I was on board with the bracelet.
Yeah.
I was still like looking through the specs of it, like aluminum bezel. I was just like, why wouldn't they go with ceramic? You know, there's a lot of things I didn't understand as a consumer at this point. So I was just like, look, I'm not going to make a judgment until A, I get more information, and B, I actually see this in the flesh. Because let's be honest, some things just don't photograph as well as they do in person, you know, when you actually have it in your hands, you know, holding a tangible item and kind of understanding like, okay, the craftsmanship, the weight, like all these different factors. So it wasn't till late February when I actually held it for the first time, and I actually held it on a NATO strap first. So I didn't even get to experience the bracelet. And I remember the first thing when it was handed to me, I thought of, holy God, this watch is insanely light. It almost feels like a toy watch.
Yeah.
And not in a bad way. I was more like, wow, I can really appreciate this. And the second thing that really grabbed my attention was, look at this dial. Look at this finish. There is so much like depth to this watch. And I started, you know, kind of like learning more about the process they use. It's not just an aluminum bezel. It's an oxalic aluminum, oxalic anodized aluminum bezel, which basically it's a 3-time hardened aluminum process that Omega created to basically prevent it from scratching. So like, and a lot of people are like, well, it's still not a ceramic bezel. They're doing cheap stuff with the watch. You know, they're trying to get more profits out of it. No. Let's be clear about a few things here. First, the bezel was designed this way because of a coloring issue. They wanted the bezel to match the dial in color. And if you did ceramic, it's supposed to be a retro tool military watch. That's why it's got the matted titanium, the brushed titanium. So it looks, you know, not like bling bling. It's supposed to look like, you know, kind of inconspicuous. It's all by design. Another factor is they wanted it to age like a true like military watch. Over time, all these watches will fade. That's the design. But the beauty of it is like, David, I live here in Las Vegas. I get sun all the time. My watch might fade at a faster rate than yours does. Yeah. And yours, you know, being in the winter, you might not get as much sunlight hitting it. So over time, these watches are going to change. And I think that's a really cool factor because they're going to be more individual that way.
That's a really good point. And I've got to tell you, my journey for this watch has been interesting, but it's documented in my videos where, you know, Omega first sent me the 2 watches. They sent me the one, you know, with the NATO and obviously one with the one that I have now to review. And so literally I had them in and was able to love them and appreciate them for a very long weekend and videotape them and then literally put them in a secure package and courier it back to New York City, which killed me. But
yeah, I was like, that had to be just painful as anything.
You know what it's like? And people are going to be like, gee, David, it's like getting a puppy, a really cute puppy. And you hold that puppy in your hand. You're like, yeah, I'll foster the puppy for, you know, a week. And then you got to give the puppy back. I mean, it's akin to that. It's like, as it leaves. But I will tell you, when I got it in, the reason why this watch has a really deep connection with me, there's so many factors. First of all, it's Craig's last outing. So this is his watch that he designed. He connected with Omega. It's well documented that he had a hand in this. And it's his last watch. I've got his first watch and I've got his last watch. The other thing is we now know, unless something insane is going to happen, this is the watch that he wears in retirement in Jamaica all the way through to whatever happens at the end of the movie. I mean, that's got some long film time. If you believe the film time of 2 hours and 50 minutes, that's a lot of watch moments that we can collect. So to me, I just think this is like something that is so iconic. And then I agree with you. I fell in love with the coloring. It's something very different. And this strap is so damn comfortable and unique. To me, it doesn't look like every other Omega that I have.
Oh, 100%. And like I've been saying this whole time, I just want my Bond watches to be different each time around. Like I want them to stand out and have that connection to that film. And, you know, like, again, this movie's like what you said, like 2 hours and 50 minutes, 2 hours, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
The opening scene's maybe 20 minutes long. So for 2.5 hours, this is Bond's watch in my eyes. And essentially, you know, it's actually going to be worn by Naomi too on a NATO strap, which we've seen.
That's a really, really good and fair point because, this is multi-character. It's a
Yeah.
multi-character watch. So, with the NATO strap, for example, there you go. Now, does she wear the same size as him?
Yeah, so there's no size difference in the watch. The only thing is the strap's different from the Melanie's bracelet. So
Ah,
um I don't think we're going to see Bond wear it on the NATO. I just don't see why that
no.
would happen. But I am curious. This is speculation, everyone. If the watches will do something together because they're being
Oh,
issued to double O agents. It looks like because she has one, he has one.
yeah.
Okay, so I got my fingers crossed that there's some sort of gadget in there that like will be like multi double O. Another cool thing would be is if we see other agents at
Mm.
MI6 walking around, you see it on their wrists. That would be like, whoa, like
Well, so let's talk about that for a second. And for those of you that are avoiding spoilers, I wouldn't consider this a spoiler, but if you're sensitive, you can either mute or what have you. But this is what we deem right now a scene from the movie. And
yes.
it is Q doing something wonderful to his watch. We won't even get into what it is. We've got a lot of speculation tied with maybe a little bit of fact because they've released some information about what it does potentially. The only thing is he retires with this watch and then years go by. So it'd be really interesting that she gets the same watch. It's like they haven't updated the 00 watches in that many years.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it like really leaves me kind of puzzled, which I
Yeah.
love that there's this little tantalizing factor to it that we don't know
Yes.
yet. And I love that. I don't want to know. I want that surprise. But it's just like my big question mark right now is why does she have the watch and why does he have the watch? And how if he retired after Spectre, how did he get the watch? Like this
Ooh.
is where my brain's going,
Ooh.
Because
Yeah. Could
so
could it's total speculation. I don't know anything from anything. Could Q have sent it to him?
that would be awesome.
It's
Maybe in
like
a
I knew
certain
you would be back. Thanks for returning my watch. And then he does some cool things with it. And Bond's looking like, oh crap, the watch was that all the time. Who knew?
Yeah, I know. It would be awesome. Like, and hopefully maybe we'll get an appearance of that watch roll that was included with it. Like
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
that's
that
an
would be
interesting
awesome.
thing. The watch roll has to have some factor in the movie because they went totally against having a box. There has to be a reason for that. It is a tool-like thing.
So do you want to hear another fun fact?
Is it a fact? Is it a
It
spoiler?
No, it's not a spoiler. It's a fact though, and I
Okay.
have a feeling you're gonna be impressed.
Yeah, do it.
I have some friends that are in Omegas, behind the scenes, and the actual I'll hold it up since we're talking about it. But this is what we're talking about. This is what came with the watch. And let me ask you something, David. Are you familiar with anything about this? Does it look familiar at all to you?
I mean, it looks very close to the suitor he has in the movie.
Okay, here we go. Omega went to the same fabric company that Barber uses to create this watch roll, and they used the influence from the Skyfall Barber jacket to create the watch roll.
No kidding.
Yes.
That is so cool. So it's that treated wax, canvasy type material.
Yes, 100%. So
Did
it's
they have any inkling of why the roll versus a box or no?
I didn't get any of that detail. I was just told it was inspired by that jacket. And that I thought that was just such like a mind-blowing fact. I was like, I never thought of it. I never like they went to the same, I think it's called like a Millerine or whatever the fabric producer of this waxed canvases. And
Yeah,
that's where the concept came from.
that's so cool.
I
Dang.
know. Now you'll look at it differently now.
Well, Lorenzo, I have some good news and some bad news. What do you want first?
Bad news first.
Bad news is that's the end of the PowerPoint. I've got no other pictures. The good news is that you keep coming out with this amazing content on your Instagram, daily stories, daily images. You highlight other people, and this will not be our last watch conversation leading up to the movie. So I hope you had fun today.
I had a great time, David. I had an excellent time.
Tempest fugit. I mean, the time goes quick when you and I start talking, doesn't it?
It sure flies, man. But I did enjoy coming on, and it was awesome. If you don't mind, I'd like to talk about something I got sent yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Before I did the episode, and we actually didn't even talk about this watch, but I work with the boutique in San Antonio, and there is a general manager there, and her name's Amy Scott, and she has just been over the moon, like supportive of my hobby and the Bond community as far as like my experience. And as you know, for Christmas, Cassandra had gifted me the vintage watch. Well, it didn't come with an Omega strap. It came with just a generic strap. Well, Amy tracked down a strap that was discontinued, and now my watch is 100% complete. So it's a Safino Italian leather strap by Omega. And this is actually, I have the original buckle, but I put a more modern buckle on there. But it's more of like a cross hatching. I don't know if you can kind of see it.
Yeah, I could totally see it.
So Amy tracked that down, and she knew I told her that I was going to be doing an episode with you, so she overnighted it to me.
What?
And I got it. I got it yesterday, and it was just like the service and the attention to detail. Like she's amazing, and that's the kind of brand experience I like to have. And look, like I know a lot of people have gone into boutiques and have not had a choice experience, but you just got to kind of take it as like each store is run differently, and there are people out there that are willing to go above and beyond for clients that really are passionate. And Amy just knocks it out of the park. And spoiler alert, she has been talking to me about possibly hosting something in the future. So I'm looking forward to that becoming, something of a
Vegas
thing.
needs a Bond event. They really do. And by the way, I got to tell you, I'm a big believer that people like us do business with people, not companies. And so it is about the individuals that make up these brands and companies that make it so special. And by the way, I got to tell you, I was here to surprise you with pictures, and you're surprising me. So you're turning things around here, man. It's just like James Bond.
100%, man. And it's just like, I mean, again, I'm all about, like, a lot of people that have talked to me will attest to this. Like, I'm always willing to help someone get their next timepiece, because I just love that I can play just a little sliver in that memory. And I'm always willing to talk or assist or whatever I can do. That is like one of my favorite things about my channel, is like I get to help people out there that just aren't sure, or like they need advice. And I take pride in that.
So 2 things I'll end this on. Number 1, go to Omega Bond Watches on Instagram, follow this gentleman, experience all the amazing stories that he creates. But in addition to that, dare I say, people can ask you questions, they can DM you, and, use that generous offer that you just said of maybe having you be kind of the watch Sherpa, if you will, in helping people.
I like that, Sherpa. That's kind of it's kind of kitschy. I like it.
It could catch on. I could learn to like it if I had more time. Anyway, Lorenzo, thank you so much for joining today. Really appreciate it.
David, thanks for having me on. It's been so much fun, and I look forward to doing more stuff in the future.
We will soon. And this has been David Zaritsky for the Bond Experience, and we'll see you all real soon. Take care. Thanks for watching this episode. If you want to be up on the latest from the Bond Experience, just click on this subscribe and subscribe to our channel. You're going to get all the latest and greatest information, plus some exclusive content. And by the way, speaking of content, here's something especially for you, just because we know you. Talk to you soon.